Good afternoon, directors. So April continues the spate of boring months for CCWD operations staff. No, but I think we have some interesting things that we can share with y'all. A little different from the norm, kind of talking about grants and grant applications.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
This is a great picture. So this grant was applied for in 2019. Critical Facilities Generator Implementation Project. And so this is a $500,000 where the district applied for hazard mitigation grant funds to add generators to 10 locations that currently did not have them. And so what this also allows us to do is to free up some trailer mounted generators that we keep at some of these locations because they have turned out to be either difficult to access in an emergency or just more convenient to set there because for whatever reason, power is unreliable. So this is an image of the delivery of those generators at the beginning of April into the yard right here. Okay.
Sorry.
Yes, it is. It's really great. So we're not starting in Rancho Calaveras here this month with the service line repairs. We're up on Ebbets Pass. The Ebbets Pass crew has been doing a heck of a ton of work related to the distribution system, both in improving their understanding of the system and in addressing issues like the classic service lateral leak. And so this is just an image of a leak on Canyon View on a 1-inch service lateral that the guys went out, located. You can see the image on the bottom left, kind of hard to see, but it's pushing out sediment from the ground, like pushing. So it created a little anthill of it really kind of like silt. It's kind of interesting. And so then the guys were able to, in the upper corner or the upper left-hand corner, you can see the repair clamp made on the service. Image in the middle, you can see water blowing everywhere, using the pickup tube on the back on to make the fix. This is some of that work that they've been doing that helps make the district better in general, locating service lines on bare lots. This has partly been driven by the fact that PG&E has been so focused on undergrounding their infrastructure on Ebbets Pass. Last year, they did 20 plus miles. This year, they want to do up to 29 miles. And so we have hundreds of USAs that come in associated with this work. And so our guys are trying to kind of get ahead of it and look at empty lots where we might have had, cross country line or set a meter, and we have a service that's going to terminate at a certain area, and go ahead and locate those now so we know what's going on. So you can see kind of quite some interesting locations where we have kind of an old meter set or a termination of the water system. All right. I don't know if you all have ever seen this, so I just wanted to share some pictures of what happens when customer service gets a call for construction water, and then the district staff are asked to go place a hydrant meter out in the system. This is what a hydrant meter looks like. In the image on the left, you can see the folks have coupled it to the hydrant and chained it up, and then we advise the contractor to put a lock on that valve. You can see that blue handled valve at the end of it. It's kind of hard to see in that image. And then what happens is there's an automatic monthly work order that's issued to our staff to go out and read that. And then they punch that into the work order, and that informs customer service. And then the contractors build off of hydrant meter use. These are some images of what we get from PG&E related to the USA underground service alerts for their undergrounding projects. So I think, I can't remember month of April, I think we're somewhere in the tune of over 500 USAs, which obviously we have a staff of 3 up there on the pass, so they can't accommodate all of this work. So what we really end up doing is meeting at the construction trailer for each job and talking directly with the folks that are doing the work. Okay, what streets are you on next week? And we'll go ahead and knock those USAs out. We'll go identify anything that we might need to touch base with you on then. And so that's kind of how our folks have been approaching it. We've also added additional resources to help.
So PG&E contact USA and sends in 500 at one time for a period of what, 2 or 3 months?
Correct. They're contractors. It could be even a period of even longer, but there's a time frame that sets a clock, right? So legally, we have 48 hours to go make those marks. We can't accommodate that. And so this is kind of driving this broader conversation And I can't for the life of me remember the name of the state agency that's focused on safe underground work. But there is a state agency, and there was legislation that was passed related to wildfire. At the bottom of that legislation, there was a discussion about um, improving the speed with which locates are made. And really what we're looking at now is the potential, and I think you guys have heard about this, but the potential for projects to be required to locate within centimeters their infrastructure, underground infrastructure, to facilitate the work of others. And that if, so for example, PG&E wants to put a substation next to one of our booster pump stations, and there's a sewer line and a water line in the ground. And we're required to locate those within a certain measure of accuracy so that PG&E can go ahead and design the project sleeping well at night, knowing that when they go to put it in the ground, there's not going to be a conflict because they've put the onus on us. Because if they do go out there and they find that our water line is in their way, we're going to be on the stick to relocate that water line. So this is kind of an end around unfunded mandate associated with underground infrastructure. But what it will do, if kind of looking from their lens, is it would speed up the process with which they can do this work. Excuse me. And so when they're stuck against the wall waiting for us to locate infrastructure, that is challenging for their timelines. They want to get all this mileage done. So they're hoping that this change in legislation will facilitate their work for years to come. So there's a team actually associated with updating the regulation that was compelled to be changed as associated with that legislation. And that team's supposed to complete that work mid 2027. We have an opportunity here to kind of guide what happens. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to get hit with all those USAs, Director Ratterman, and have to respond to those accordingly. And then here's just some images of the folks, Matt and Bill and Nick and the team up on the pass, locating infrastructure and then marking infrastructure. So I think Kelly talked about this in the past. Wheels of Wonder. This was a really great time for our folks to be able to kind of share what our heavy equipment does with the Hazel Fisher Elementary School kids. And you can see Matt really engaged in there, gesticulating over there by the pickup tube to the kids about what it is that they're doing. I think this was a hit across the board for both, school kids and teachers and for our staff. They really, really enjoyed it. And so hats off to Kelly for setting this up and for the guys for doing such a great job sharing the wonders that the VACON can do. I mean, it's truly an amazing piece of equipment. We watch that thing, open up a 8-10 inch hole in a matter of minutes. It's really impressive. So perhaps we have some future CCWD staffers out there watching this thing do its thing. Can't say enough great things about the work that our construction crew does. This is up on Evans Pass, Navajo and Apache, installing a new fire hydrant T, guard valve, and hydrant, and then reestablishing essentially what I guess you could call it a curb, but it's a sidewalk. They just do great work. You can see the molding that they put in on the form, the image on the left, and the image on the right shows that how they basically made everything look exactly like it already did originally. So hats off to the guys for doing that. Resetting some G5. So these are the cans that go down into the waterline valve. There's called a G5, and there's a concrete collar. We usually use a piece of C900 pipe to kind of focus your ability to get down to the top of that valve with a valve key of varying depths. So it's always important when you can improve or reestablish access to those, because the valves are our ability to isolate the system in emergencies or to optimize flushing or what have you. So there's some images of both. Kind of the image on the left is work has been done. We've reestablished the G5s. The image on the right is we're tearing out some old antiquated concrete. I'm going to go reestablish it. So during the Snowmageddon of February, we had a cross-country line break that really did a number on the forest there in the area. And this is just an image of our folks on the construction crew went back and cleaned that up and graded it. And it just looks like a park. Really hard to kind of show the context of with which the work that they did in this image, but I just want to assure you that it was really impressive. The root ball was, 8 feet tall by the time the tree had fallen over, and the water line is sticking up in the air. And then they were able to reestablish the line and make it look like nothing ever happened. Really impressive.
Damon, on that subject, I was wondering, we had 2 instances where over and ripped out pipes. Has anybody gone back to kind of put their eyeballs on possibilities that trees didn't go all the way over? They tipped a little bit, having leaks that we haven't detected yet because of that storm?
That's a great question. When our folks are out in the field, those kinds of things pop out to them. And so I think we're always on the lookout. I think we would note that. One of the things that's also kind of falls in that family of the work that our folks do is if they see a lot of like ferns or like a pocket of, green grass in a certain area. Actually, incidentally, I was out in the field with the guys and we were looking at a location for one of the generator sets for the generator project, and construction crew was like, hey, we need to go take a look up. We were in a draw right at Lake Tulloch, and in the draw, kind of up the hill towards the street, ferns, it's nice and green. We're like, we need to go take a look at what's going on over there. And so I think the short answer is yes. The long answer is there's a whole host of tools that our guys are alert to that could help them understand if there's. This one is a little bit associated with the Sea Transmission project, but we had an old blow off that's outlet was in conflict with that pipeline. And so we had a blow off nearby. So our folks determined the best approach would be just to abandon that. And as they were working to do the work, it decided to abandon itself in the image on the left. And so we were able to kind of quickly isolate and then cap that at the coupling you can see there on the right. This is just some images of electrical underground. So the image on the left, our construction crew is prepping in these images to set the SAF unit, which is going to be that pretreatment unit that the Army Corps, we're working with the Army Corps on all the improvements at the copper reclaim. So this is that pretreatment unit. And our crews went out and basically all the marks are the electrical lines in red. And so we have to navigate those as we determine where to pothole for the influent line from the pump station from the pond that conveys that water to the reclaim unit to be treated. So there's just some images of the construction crew out there doing that work. This is a really interesting one. So this is, Friday afternoon, treatment operators like, hey, we've been monitoring the Copperopolis tank, the image on the right, all day. And we've been, outlet flow has been matching inlet flow. So meaning the tank's not gaining any ground. 100 plus gallons a minute going into the tank, 100 plus gallons a minute coming out of the tank. Something's going on. So all Friday, the distribution crew looked in that region that the tank feeds in the image on the left. So basically town square, old Copperopolis, elementary school area to the highway there, and even across the highway for a sign of a leak. And so late afternoon, we have a conversation. We can't find what's going on. So we notify, what we do in these situations, we notify on-call folks, and treatment operators continue to monitor, and they lower the parameters that the tank will alarm out. So we basically can get a jump on anything that happens. And then we wait. Maybe a customer will call and, hey, there's water's flowing out onto Main Street, or there's something, and then we can understand, okay, that's where we have to go. So this one lasted through the night. And this is, incidentally, this image on the right is the picture of the tank just when this 100 plus gallon minute leak turned into a 600 plus gallon minute leak. So what basically the line broke at that point. It was no longer just leaking, it broke. And so first thing in the morning, treatment staff are heading out into the field to understand what's going on. And they find this behind the Griffs there in town square. So pretty easy to understand. That is the source of the leak. Finally gave up the ghost. And so this was kind of best case scenario in this situation. There was a valve right just upstream of this leak. We were able to isolate it and come back let the soil dry a little bit and come back and make the repair. And literally, as you can imagine, right as that valve is shut, copper tank starts to gain. So just a kind of a day in the life of the on-call person who's like, wait, what? I could get a call at any time that, yeah, somebody found this. Yes, we're still trying to find it.
That's pretty new infrastructure there.
Yeah, I'm 20 years old. But this was
That's pretty new.
Yeah.
this, yeah, and this was a, yeah. Did you see this out in the field? Yeah.
Well, no, I didn't see it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you did. Oh, okay, great. Yeah,
That's my.
yeah, gotcha. Well, no, this was actually a valve on the line. So the valve itself failed. It wasn't the C900 that failed. Yeah, yeah. So it was kind of a terminated, this was off a 2-inch coming off the main. So, yeah, not the C900. Yeah. Some more pics of the generator project. So kind of receiving the generators and taking them off the trailer, putting them out here in the yard. And then we went out into the fields and reaffirmed where they were going to live at certain locations. So lift station 17 on the left in copper, lift station 7 on the right in copper. For the forms, set it up. And then I believe one of these generators, I believe 7, the one on the right has already been placed. And then we're going to place the one on the left here next week. So that project is moving forward. Filter rehab progress update. So the image on the left kind of shows how the team that is rehabbing those filters gets the media in and out of the filters. So they use that hopper system to push it and pull it out of, bless you, out of the tank. And then the image on the right, when they coat and blast the filters, they build a structure around them and use, some thick milled visqueen to kind of keep everything cleanly in there. But I just want to share with you, this is the rehabilitated filter images, just how clear the water is. The absorption clarifier. So under the screen in both images are all of these little tiny plastic beads, and they look like lentil beans. And what they do is they act like basically something that the water can push up against, and they drag the debris off the water molecule. So they basically keep all of what we call flock underneath the screen. So as the water flows through, it's electrically charged, it's negatively charged. We hit it with some polymer, and that polymer is positively charged, and they attract dirt. And the dirt grabs onto that water molecule, and then it flows by that plastic bead, and it flows out of that screen and overflows into the trough and heads up the picture image and flows down by gravity through the filter. You can see just how good of a job that clarifier is doing in clarifying the water, because you can see the what kind of lights are those? Fluorescent lights reflected back in the water. And so we've never rehabilitated the filters in copper. They got 0.028 turbidity is the kind of pre-rehab, and that's really, really clean filtered water. But 0.011 is even cleaner. And so it's really impressive what a totally rehabilitated filter coupled with some talented operators can accomplish. So hats off to the district for doing that work. And then while, you're kind of kicking the tires, so to speak, on the filters, our team went in and got a roll off and went through all of kind of the storage units at the copper water treatment plant and cleaned the site up and got rid of a bunch of old monitoring equipment, a bunch of outdated project manuals. So hats off to the guys for doing that work. This is an example of a lift station. This was found in backup. It was really just kind of not pumping, emergencies all across the board at lift station 11 in Poker there. And our guys went in and realized the floats were bad, replaced those floats. So we have a raw water pump that's failed in our raw water pump station in Tulloch, and we need to have a watertight electrical connection when we replace that pump. And so we use this, our folks designed this apparatus with a full circle repair clamp, which keeps that watertight connection in place as the pump is set. So we'll have to drop that pump with an excavator and a barge into the lake. And we don't want to crimp that electrical line or expose it to water at all. And so the electricians and the mechanics work together to fabricate this bracket, so to speak, to keep that connection, that cable, the electrical cable, as straight as possible.
And our guys fabricated that just for the,
That's right.
here's an opportunity for.
This is a great opportunity. Yes.
For an Aqua JPIA, what is it called? HR LaBounty Safety Award.
I love it.
Funny you should mention that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I love it.
I
I
was
love the
thinking-
sticker as well.
I was thinking more like getting a patent on it.
Right? Isn't that impressive? I believe that's one. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Hats off to the guys. Yeah.
And
You know, right? Yeah. The HR LaBounty Innovation Award.
yeah,
Yeah. You know, this one's kind of obvious, failed float. You can see the exposed wire here. You know, those floats, as you can kind of see, it's part of the benefit of this image right here, is you can kind of see, hard to see, but in the image on the right, you can see the two sewer pumps at the very bottom of the wet well, and then hanging in there are these floats. So you got an on float, you got an off float, and you got an emergency float, you got a low float. And those things, you know, they're surging around periodically. You might get, you know, a fat berg develop in there, and it's kind of like twisting the floats up. So invariably they'll rub against something and end up looking like that. We got to replace them. And so this is not Shrek's house. This is duckweed. So this is not algae, but this is just the electricians wanted to share, you know, it's critical. This is at Southworth. So we work to keep that treated effluent sewage pond aerated. So when the aerator dies, our guys jump on it and go in there and get it going. So this is an example of no aerator ops in the image on the left, aerator back in action in the image on the right. So another transducer issue at the Clearwell at West Point Water Treatment Plant, just kind of a picture on the left from the ladder cage. So, you know, our guys are doing all kinds of work. You know, speaking of HR LaBounty, he would be proud. You know, we go underground, we go on top of the tank, we go all over the place, and safety is key. So just kind of some images of this one was really actually very tricky. It wasn't only a transducer issue, there was a PLC issue. So the Clearwell was not really sure when it was ready to tell the plant to shut off or to turn on. And so our guys had to do a lot of troubleshooting work to make sure the plant could continue to operate. Same with this influent valve on filter number 1 at West Point. The valve itself, the PLC, was having issues understanding what its role was and how it was supposed to function. So this is a case of where the operators worked closely with the electricians to resolve issues. And then, so it's kind of hard to see in the image on the left, underground service alerts. So sometimes PG&E will come in and they'll say, you know, white line to white line, 2,000 feet up the hill. And so we've had a conversation with these folks since this time, but what can happen in that case is our guys are not realizing or not noticing that the underground service alert is calling for something 2,000 feet up the hill. Well, in this case in Wilseyville, 2,000 feet up the hill is our Wilseyville pressure station with an 8-inch discharge line. PG&E wanted to put a power pole in, and they bored right through our water main. So all is not lost initially. We can, okay, let's see if we can isolate the line and make sure it's the failure happened in a clean fashion. But once we saw that picture in the image on the left of the water line full of mud, we knew that we had to issue a boil water advisory. So this was a boil water advisory issued for about 72 folks in Wilseyville. So that requires 2 rounds of absent back T samples. So it's essentially a 2-day boil water advisory that we had to put the team or the crew or the residents under up there. And the crew did a great job in fixing this and flushing the image on the right and reestablishing the integrity of the supply in a quick fashion. First boil water advisory, knock on wood, that we've had about 1.5 years. So hats off to the teams. Service line install, Jenny, this is a case of operations working with the project. So in this case, the ADB project, to understand what impacts were going to be to different water mains in the project. So in this case, we were going to have a dead-ended water main that has now become a dead end, and 2 of the service laterals would be near that dead end. So our team decided rather than have two services right at the dead end of this water main, we would disconnect them and attach them to a 12-inch line that was right next to that line that was now capped. And so that's the work that our guys did here to reestablish those services on a line that's fresh and flowing. Backwash basin cleanup, Jenny Lind Water Plant, kind of an illustration, you know, clean backwash basin on the right, in process cleaning on the left. This is the backwash basins, this one at Jenny, we pull a lot of minerals and a lot of sediment out of the water of the Calaveras. And so these fill up fairly readily. So this is a somewhat routine work effort, I'd say semi-annually.
Put it.
We have a storage area at La Contenta Wastewater, and we kind of fill up this moat, if you will, and then the sun does its magic and evaporates the solids until it's basically like a third or 1/10 of what it was, I would say. And then we scoop that up and put it in the dumpster.
Minerals are just naturally occurring ones that,
Yeah, naturally occurring. So the interesting thing about copper, water in Lake Tulloch and water in Hogan and the Calaveras is they're both surface water, but they have high levels of iron and manganese, which is somewhat unique for surface water. You would think it would be obviously for well water, and surface water is generally you're thinking about, you know, there's bacterial content, there's, you know, E. coli potential, that kind of stuff. Not really minerals, but in this case, both locations, lots of minerals. And this is part of the logic that our guys had to repair related to that clear well at West Point. Looks super clear to me. Thanks, y'all.
I thank you, Damon. Any questions from the board? Thank you very much, Damon.
Thanks.
We'll move on to 7B, Mr. Winkler.